Good morning. Welcome to Fortunate Sunday 7. So, the point in the screenwriting process, which for me inevitably occurs when I write this kind of screenplay, has occurred, which is that I've gotten out so far on the branch and I've looked back and I realize how thin the branch I'm on is, or how thin the ice I'm out, that I've gotten out so far, that I've sort of rushed out so far. And I do this on purpose because it works better for me than to work slowly. And I realize that there's a lot of gaps that I need to really fill in order to me to continue from the point I am with the same amount of energy. So I need to go back and I need to explain certain things to myself. Or I need to shore up certain things. For instance, last night, and these things aren't logical, they're instinctive. I always walk around with this sort of existential terror in me because I know some things are not exactly lining up, and I can just sort of feel that they're not lining up. And it's always important that you're honest with yourself when things aren't lining up, or when things aren't working, or the frame of the house is rickety in some places. And and also, the script is running long too, which always I carry that with me all the time, and it really bothers me. And I know it's an issue. I know at this juncture we're 10 pages over, and I know that I have to today. I'm going to go back and I'm going to start adding some things in, which is going to make that even longer and sort of even more challenging. But nonetheless, that is the process, and that's what has to be done. For instance, I'll give you an example. I realized yesterday, oh my God, I can't keep the wife around. Because if I keep the wife around, she has to come back. And she has to play a rather large part emotionally in the story. And I realized looking forward that I just don't have the screen real estate for that. And so I have to get rid of her. But I have to get rid of her in such a way that she informs the story that I've already written and makes it go forward even better and faster, which is what maybe something that I should have realized before, but at the same time I don't think I would have, or necessarily anybody would have. It's only something that you realize later, that the value that she brings to the script is not as much as the cost is. It will cost me to keep her around. And furthermore, keeping her around will change the script tonally. I don't want to go into something that becomes significantly more dramatic. So what I'm going to do is now is I'm going to go back and get rid of her, and I'm going to start building in planting the seeds of the protagonist, who I now am beginning to understand better. But of course, we should not start reading in any significant way our protagonist on page 70. They have to be introduced earlier. Now, a version of the protagonist, someone connected to the protagonist, was introduced, much earlier, but I need to start laying in the seeds of who that protagonist is connected to and what the ladder of antagonism looks like in this film. So that's what today's work is to do, is to go back and reinforce the branch that I've gotten myself out onto, so that when I get back to my place in the branch, it will be strong and I will be able to proceed forward with the same sort of energy that I started with. And that's what we're going to do. See you soon. Okay, so that's a reasonable place to stop. You'll notice that all I did today was rewriting. I cut 9 pages out of the script, which I needed to do because it was really, really weighing on me how long it is. I'll cut another 2 pages out of that first 30 before I'm done, so so that we'll be really in pretty good structural shape at that point. And then on top of that, additionally, I reinforced a lot of things and introduced a few elements. I killed the wife, of course, for those of you who might be actually reading along. So it was good to, both for the script going forward, to remove her as an impediment and also an emotional anchor that would have weighed things down and would have been necessary to deal with in a very intensive way. Instead now, hopefully, I've used her as an impetus to propel the story along. So she still has an impact, a huge impact on the story, but she doesn't need to take up screen space anymore to do it. So that's why I did what I did, and again, I got it down into where it should be in terms of its page length. You know, the quote-unquote first act, which is, and acts don't really exist. They're something that only exist in our minds, but, you know, they can be convenient things to speak about, and we do have kind of a sense of what first and second and third act mean, but now the third act ends or will end on about page 30, which is, for a movie like this, which is kind of a popcorn action film, is the right place, I think. And my gut sense that timing works, assuming that I've done all the proper work ahead of time to build that keg of gunpowder. But we'll see. I'll take a closer look at it when I go back, what needs to be done to either reinforce that or to make it even more explosive, or, you know, or perhaps other pieces are there. So that's what the work of today was. Thank you. Fortunate Son, Day 7. That's all she wrote.